What was the most fed up thing to come out in stores that's now discontinued? I guess radium jewelry that glowed in the dark and gave people terminal cancer. Many shoe stores used to have fluoroscope x-ray machines for customers to see how well their foot fit into the shoe they were trying on. They were often unshielded and were highly radioactive. I watched some YouTube series about things in the home that could kill you throughout history, and apparently when electricity started being commonplace in homes, nothing was yet regulated, and inventors went absolutely buck fucking wild with the products they put out. The series specifically mentioned a tablecloth with uninsulated electric mesh wiring running through the entire thing which you could plug in, and no, this was not designed to be a heated blanket. It was sold alongside other electrical accessories you could just plug right into the tablecloth by stabbing the prongs through the fabric and the mesh wiring. This obviously resulted in electrocution and fires. There was a product called the worm getter in the 80s, basically a rod that shocked the ground outside your house that for some reason caused worms to come out of the ground, so you didn't have to buy them yourself. Yeah, there were about 30 deaths attributed to this thing from people shocking themselves, and it was recalled. During the First World War, department stores, including Harrods, sold kits containing syringes, needles and tubes of cocaine and heroin. It was promoted as a present for friends on the front line, shoot up to make life in the trenches more bearable and alleviate the horrors of war. I'd like some too if I was stuck in a trench with my foot rotting off me. As a UK schoolboy, trips to France were an excuse to buy explosives. I don't know if they still sell them or not, but bangers as we called them were like little sticks of explosives, where you lit the fuse and retired to a safe distance. All the souvenir shops sold them. They came in different sizes and strengths. Once you got your bangers home, you blew up as much stuff as you could. Apples still on the tree were good. Toys were fun too. The more fucked up kids would explode live frogs, etc. This was in the 1980s. My grandfather had a kit for kids to make their own lead soldiers. It came with the molds for the soldiers, a bunch of ingots of lead, and a cooking pot to melt the lead in. Then the child could pour the molten lead into the mold, wait for it to cool, then play with their new toy. What fun! I used to work at a toy store 20 years ago. There was a hard plastic Digimon character at Tsunaman, Piggy Bank, that had a large blade-like horn on his head. The blade was surprisingly pointed / firm, and the large body meant that it would usually point upwards if left on the ground, waiting for some clumsy child to impale themselves on it. We used to jab other coworkers with it until it made #1 on the list of the most dangerous toys made that year. After seeing that article, we put it on long stick and jabbed each other from a distance. Safety first. Diet pills from Sears catalog in the early 1900s. The first pill was a tapeworm egg. The second pill was a drug to kill the tapeworm. You'd take it when you reached your desired weight. A boating raft that flies behind the boat, think 20 feet in the air. The year I bought a boat, they were the newest thing with a big video in the store on a big screen TV. I wanted one, but my wife said hell no. Our kids were about 8 and 11 at the time. The next spring I went in, and they were nowhere to be found, and I asked the salesperson about them. She said they were recalled due to injuries. What a shock, they still looked fun as hell. AIDS. It was a diet candy that became popular shortly before HIV became widely known. Their slogan was "Get Slim with AIDS." One executive refused to change the name of the company, saying something like, "We had the name first, why can't they change the name of the disease?" Anyone remember those twist braid machines for kids? You'd stick 2 strands of hair, stick one in each prong, and press the button. It'd twist the individual strands, then twist them together, and you'd use those bead clips to hold the braid together. Friends and I lost a lot of hair in those days. That vibrating Harry Potter broom for kids. There was a water gun toy that was voice activated. You would say fire, like you're shooting a gun, and then it would shoot water. Cue a number of false fire alarms, because kids are running around screaming fire 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 at the top of their lungs. Does the original Four Loko count? Amphetamines used to be used as an appetite suppressant. I mean, they worked. The liquid bath soaps with plastic microbeads in them. A literal environmental disaster in a bottle. Wow. Chips containing olestra which caused anal leakage. Cellulose nitrate spectacles. Cellulose nitrate frames were popular in the 1950s. Cellulose nitrate is highly flammable. Not only would they combust when in contact with a source of ignition and continue to burn, but they sometimes formed nitric acid when in contact with human sweat. Some wearers received facial burns this way. Color change Cheetos. You'd eat them, and then your mouth would change to either green or blue. Anyway, you didn't know what color you'd have till you started eating them. Fast forward to the next day, my 3-year-old screaming, "Mommy, mommy, something is wrong with my poo." Seems your mouth wasn't the only thing that changed color. I remember when you could buy that weird synthetic marijuana stuff in gas stations. It was right by the register. Apparently that stuff is crazy bad for you and basically turns you into a zombie. Oh baby, just look up band toys from the 50s. 4EXP super elastic bubble plastic. Make bubbles from the toxic goop you blow into. I think my personal favorite was the Atomic Energy Lab, a children's toy that came with actual U-238 and the tools to measure it. The kit also had instructions for how to prospect for uranium, or in your own backyard. Lawn darts. These were a lot of fun, but were also just a terrible accident waiting to happen. Plastic fins and body with a weighted pointy metal tip. I can remember older kids whipping them at the schoolyard fence to see how deep they could go into the 2x 12 inches pressure treated fence planks. That fairy wand for kids that had a grotesque image of a girl smiling with the arm blurred. Not super fucked up, but an interesting death trap. Honda made this 3-wheeled kick scooter in the 70s called the Kick and Go. Nifty little thing with a lever on the back that you pushed with your foot to go faster. Only problem was you could get them going really fast if you just kept kicking, more so than a regular scooter where you have to kick off the ground. They apparently sold like hotcakes in the early 70s until two kids died on them in 1976 and they pulled them from shelves. There used to be a cage that would hang out your apartment window that you'd put your baby in so they could get fresh air without leaving the apartment. Aqueducts, beads and glue to make little art pieces. Some coated in GHB/GBL. Anyone remember Pregnant Barbie? You could take her stomach off and there was a tiny baby doll inside. A few years ago there was massive backlash when some stores had t-shirts in the baby/toddler size range that said "Dad is little slut." I'm not going to search for any kind of link. They were taken off the shelf, but who the fuck thought it was a good idea to make them in the first place? When everything was Shrek themed. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but back when Shrek 1 and 2 were new they were insanely popular. Everything was green as a promo. Someone mentioned green ketchup. I remember green Shrek ketchup. I think Shrek waffles. I'm sure there was more promo food dyed green than that. I remember buying a can of Nescafe coffee that heated up in the can. It was amazing, but likely an ecological disaster. Don't think it was around long. Or possibly it was a dream. Saber cane/blowgun with real dart. Marketed for kids. With real darts. Yeah. It didn't go well. clackers balls on a string you clack together. Made out of polymer. Basically a weapon. I know I conked my head a few times. Gingerbread flavored Mountain Dew. Cool Colt, which was mentholated Colt 45 malt liquor. It came out for a very short time in the early 90s. I can imagine the marketing team for this one. The urban market loves malt liquor, and they love menthol cigarettes. Let's put them together. The best part was a radio ad I remember for it. Two guys talking about it. One states it's especially good for when you're smoothing on the ladies. Tried it once. It did taste like mouthwash and ass. Not so smooth.